There comes a moment in life when the vows once whispered in love turn into echoes of pain, when the home that was meant to be a sanctuary becomes a battlefield. Divorce, in its purest form, is meant to be a path toward peace, a painful yet necessary separation of lives that no longer walk in unity. But when that path crosses with a narcissist, it becomes something far darker, something far more dangerous. It transforms into psychological warfare. You see, a narcissist does not seek closure, they seek control. They do not let go. They hold on through manipulation, through guilt, through the slow erosion of your spirit. They twist truth into confusion, kindness into weakness, and love into a weapon. They will use silence to punish, charm to deceive, and chaos to keep you entangled. But you must remember, this battle is not won by shouting louder or fighting harder. It is won by rising higher. By standing firm in your truth when they try to rewrite your story. By protecting your peace when they try to provoke your pain. There is a divine strength that awakens within you when you refuse to be broken. When you choose healing over hatred, clarity over confusion, peace over power, because no matter how intense their war becomes, your greatest victory will always be your freedom. The moment you no longer need to prove your worth to the one who tried to destroy it. This is not just about surviving divorce. It is about reclaiming your soul from the shadows of manipulation and walking boldly into a life where peace, not pain, defines your future. When you step into that courtroom, you might think the battle is about papers, signatures, property, or custody. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, the real war doesn't end when the judge strikes the gavel. It only shifts its shape. The courtroom becomes just one stage in a much larger performance, where the narcissist plays the victim, the hero, or the martyr. Depending on what earns them the most sympathy and control. They don't fight for justice, they fight for dominance. Their weapon isn't the law, it's manipulation, and they wield it with precision. They know how to twist the story, how to turn your truth into doubt, your calm into coldness, your tears into weakness. They study your emotions like a strategist studies an opponent. Every silence, every text, every reaction becomes ammunition in their psychological war. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself trying to prove your innocence in a game that was never meant to be fair. But here's where your power begins to rise. You stop playing their game. You stop reacting to their lies, and you start standing on your truth. You stop letting their chaos pull you off your center. You learn that silence can be louder than shouting, and composure more powerful than confrontation. Because when they can't shake your peace, they lose their control. This kind of battle tests you. It tests your faith, your patience, your sense of self. It makes you question your worth, your past, and even your sanity. But through that fire, something extraordinary happens. You discover that strength isn't about fighting harder. It's about standing taller. You realize that peace is not something they can take. It's something you choose, even in the middle of the storm. You start to rebuild your life piece by piece, moment by moment, not from bitterness but from clarity. You rise not with revenge but with resolve. You begin to see that the battle was never really about them. It was about you remembering who you were before they tried to define you. And one day, when the noise fades and the dust settles, you'll look around and realize the war is over, not because they surrendered, but because you stopped engaging in their mind games and finally claimed your victory in silence and peace. When you walk away from a narcissist, you might think it's over, that the storm will calm once the papers are signed and the distance is set. But that's when you learn something powerful. They don't see letting go as a release. They see it as defeat. To them, love was never about connection. It was about control. And when you take your power back, when you finally stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing peace in their chaos, it shakes their world. Because without your energy, without your attention, their illusion starts to crumble. They will try everything to pull you back in. Guilt, charm, anger, even pity. They'll remind you of memories they once destroyed, of promises they never meant to keep, all to make you question your choice to let go. But that's the trap. They feed on reaction, they thrive on your confusion, and the moment you stop feeding that need, you become something they can't manipulate. You become free. Letting go doesn't mean you lost. It means you finally saw the truth behind their mask. It means you chose peace over control, clarity over chaos, and self-respect over illusion. Yes, it hurts. It hurts because you gave your heart to someone who only wanted your obedience. It hurts because you hoped that love could heal what manipulation built. But healing isn't about fixing them. It's about freeing yourself. And the moment you choose to walk away, the power struggle shifts. Because they may still talk, they may still provoke, but you no longer respond. You no longer explain yourself to someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer need validation from someone who was threatened by your strength. That's when real strength shows up. Not in revenge, not in proving them wrong, but in your silence, your focus, your peace. You rise above their need for control by mastering your own emotions. You stop being a piece in their game and start being the author of your own story. So if it feels like losing, remember this. You didn't lose them, you released them. You didn't fail the relationship. You freed yourself from a prison disguised as love. And when you let go, you didn't walk away from something weak. You walked towards something powerful, something real, something that belongs to you. Your peace, your purpose, your life. When you finally say goodbye to a narcissist, you think the lies will end, the confusion will fade, and the noise will stop. But what you learn is that sometimes the hardest part comes after the goodbye. Because they don't need to be beside you to keep controlling the narrative. They do it through gaslighting that lingers in your mind long after they're gone. You start second, guessing yourself, wondering if you were too harsh, too emotional, too much. You question your truth because they spent so long twisting it. That's the power of their grip. It's psychological, invisible, but heavy. They'll rewrite history to make you the villain and them the victim. They'll spread stories that turn sympathy in their favor while planting seeds of doubt in everyone around you. And if you let their voice echo in your mind, they'll keep winning from a distance. That's what gaslighting after goodbye is. It's not about what they say now. It's about what they've trained you to believe about yourself. But here's where your awakening begins. You stop looking for closure from someone who never gave you honesty. You start recognizing that their version of events isn't truth. It's strategy. You remember moments, not through their eyes, but through your own heart. You begin to trust your memory, your instincts, your pain. You reclaim your voice, the one they tried to silence with manipulation and doubt. Breaking free doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of unlearning every lie they made you carry. It's waking up one day and realizing that the guilt you've been holding doesn't belong to you. It's understanding that their criticism was never about your flaws. It was about their fear of your strength. And once you start seeing clearly, you stop playing their invisible game. You detach not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You stop defending yourself to people who were fed their story. You stop explaining what only truth can reveal over time. You build peace in silence, knowing that the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. That's freedom. When their words no longer shake you. When their name no longer owns space in your mind. When their power dissolves because you've remembered who you are. And that's the victory they can never take back. When your clarity becomes louder than their confusion and your healing becomes the final word. There comes a time when the tears dry up, when the questions stop spinning in your head and all that's left is silence. That's where the real work begins. That's where you start reclaiming your peace. Because peace isn't something they can give you, and it's not something they can take away. It's something you build from the inside out, one breath, one truth, one act of strength at a time. When you've been broken by manipulation, when your heart has been twisted by false love, the pain becomes your teacher. It shows you where you lost yourself and reminds you that it's time to come home. You start seeing that every scar carries a story, not of weakness but of survival. You realize that every sleepless night, every moment you doubted your worth, was shaping you into someone unshakable. Because pain, when you face it, transforms. It becomes power. It becomes clarity. It becomes purpose. You start to move differently, speak differently, think differently. You stop living for their approval and start living for your peace. Reclaiming your peace means setting boundaries without apology. It means choosing silence over chaos, truth over illusion, healing over revenge. It's when you no longer need to prove your side of the story because your peace speaks louder than any defense you could ever give. It's not about pretending the pain never happened. It's about refusing to let it define you. And somewhere in that journey, you stop chasing closure and start creating it. You forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You let go of the version of yourself that was trapped in their shadow, and you step into your light. You begin to feel power in your calm, strength in your softness, and confidence in your quiet. You learn that peace doesn't mean everything around you is calm. It means you are. It's standing in the middle of what tried to break you and realizing it no longer can. It's walking through the same fire that once burned you and feeling warmth instead of pain. That's what turning pain into personal power looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's steady, grounded, unstoppable. Because when you reclaim your peace, you don't just survive the storm, you become the calm after it. There comes a point when you realize that fighting back only keeps you tied to the pain. You spend so much time trying to prove what they did, trying to show the world who they really are, that you forget the one thing that truly matters, your peace. The silent victory isn't about revenge, it's about release. It's when you stop letting their actions dictate your emotions. It's when you no longer need them to understand, to apologize, or to feel the weight of what they've done. You stop chasing justice in their chaos and start finding freedom in your own healing. Revenge might feel satisfying for a moment, but it keeps you connected to the same energy that broke you. It makes you carry the fire they started instead of putting it out. Healing, though, it's different. It's quiet, steady, powerful. It doesn't shout. It doesn't seek attention. It simply transforms pain into purpose. It's waking up one morning and realizing they no longer occupy your mind. It's hearing their name and feeling nothing. That's the real victory. The moment they lose access to your emotions, your energy, your spirit. You start to understand that walking away in peace is louder than any argument you could ever have. You don't need to destroy their image to rebuild your own. You don't need to prove they were wrong. You just need to live right. The best revenge is living in peace, smiling without bitterness, and shining in the light of your own healing. The silent victory happens in moments nobody sees. When you choose calm over conflict, forgiveness over fury, grace over resentment. It happens when you show up for yourself, when you treat your wounds with compassion, when you learn to love yourself deeper than they ever could. That's strength. That's power. And one day, you'll look back and realize that you didn't just survive what they did. You grew through it. You became wiser, softer, stronger. Their chaos became your classroom. Their betrayal became your teacher. You turned what was meant to break you into the very thing that built you. That's the silent victory. When your healing speaks louder than your hurt, when your peace becomes your proof, and when the life you build in love outshines the pain they left behind. In the end, the greatest victory isn't in proving a narcissist wrong, it's in reclaiming yourself. It's walking away with your head high, your spirit unshaken, and your heart no longer chained to their chaos. You learn that peace is not found in their apology, but in your acceptance, not in their downfall, but in your rise. Healing becomes your rebellion, and peace becomes your power. You stop looking back for closure and start looking forward to freedom. Every wound turns into wisdom, every scar into strength. You become living proof that even after being torn down, you can rebuild, stronger, wiser, softer, and more grounded in truth than ever before. And that's when you realize the real battle was never with them. It was within you, and you won not by fighting harder, but by choosing to heal, to grow, and to rise beyond their reach.